Welcome to the Always Bayern Chelsea show. This is episode 8. Today is Saturday, April 13th, and we're going to be going over the Bayern versus Cologne match that just happened today, and we're also going to be previewing Chelsea and Everton and previewing Bayern versus Arsenal Champions League Wednesday night football, baby.
It's a absolutely gorgeous Saturday here in the beautiful city of Milwaukee. Bayern with a nice victory to start the morning. I got in a round of golf, saw the highlights of the game. So I'll do my best here, but just a beautiful day.
It also was a beautiful day in Munich. The weather reports were 25 degrees Celsius. The sun was shining. Can't ask for anything better.
And I also can't tell you what 25 degrees Celsius means.
I can tell you that one of the ESPN guys, Archie, said that it is a little too hot for English skin.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
So that's interesting. And what's interesting about that is every single English game, it rains pretty much. So that checks out.
Yeah. So, yeah, we had a nice, I guess sort of nice, maybe depending on who you ask, 2-0 victory today versus Cologne, who is bottom of the table, as we talked about, 17th place, potentially getting relegated, as we talked about in our preview show, episode 7. Bayern had the I guess, luxury to kind of rest a few guys before the Arsenal match. However, a bad injury for Kingsley Coman sounds like he's going to be out for the rest of the season, which is a big blow for the Arsenal match and just a blow for the mood on the day, I would say.
You know who it's not nice for is anybody that listened to our predictions, because if they made bets out there, Bayern minus 2.5, they went home big losers. That's unfortunate. I was maybe expecting Bayern to have one or two more goals, but yeah, it was an interesting game, like you said, and I think we had said in the preview some guys might get rested, and It appears that's kind of what they did, which makes sense.
Yeah, and Bayern did have quite a few chances today. The woodwork was doing its best to keep the ball out of the net for Cologne. Yeah, there was Kane had a chance or two off the post. One of Kane's chances was off the inside of the post, which I said defied physics, it seemed like. I don't know how that one didn't go in. Tell had a couple of really nice shots, at least one off the post as well. But Cologne had some chances too.
Yeah, just briefly watching the highlights a few minutes ago here, and both teams looked like they were really lackadaisical on defense, giving up a lot of quite easy chances that frankly should have been put away. The score arguably could have been 4-2 Bayern.
Mm-hmm. That is that defense is kind of how Bayern's looked lately, and even for much of the season, it's really shocking sometimes how easily teams, even teams like Cologne, who are at the lower end of the table, can just string together chances. I mean, we saw it last weekend. Heidenheim, they scored those 2 goals right after half in like 80 seconds. It just 2 massive defensive breakdowns right after another. So it seems like you're kind of lucky if Bayern strings together a full 90 minutes of impressive defense, which is why against Arsenal I was just on the edge of my seat the entire match.
I would argue Chelsea is kind of a poor man's Bayern, if you will. Bayern's a much better and cleaner version of Chelsea because they both try to give the game away at times. You got these passes, the one from Upamecano, where it's like you're giving it straight to the defender, trying to give them a goal to get them right back in the match, which is exactly the same thing Chelsea does week in, week out.
It is funny. I've mentioned that before too, just from watching Chelsea. Like they do remind me of Bayern. Bayern has, you would think that they would have the talent to and just the experience overall to kind of avoid some of those mistakes, but this year that really hasn't been the case.
And I think that's the key difference that you just said right there, the experience. Bayern does have that, which Chelsea doesn't. And not to go further down this comparison rabbit hole, but that is the key, and I think that's the reason why Bayern are still able to go get a win 2-0 against a poor team, not just draw or lose, especially at home. That experience really helps Bayern to stay in the second spot in the Bundesliga, which will be huge for them, I think, in the long haul.
Yep. I think too that experience, and then also like just what you could call the Harry Kane factor, but just having Harry Kane makes me excited for every match, and I go into every match thinking that there's a chance that Bayern can win, because very rarely, unless you're I guess talking about maybe Real Madrid or Manchester City, they're not going to be like outclassed in talent. Just if you're looking at the lineups, head to head on paper.
Agreed. And with Harry Kane, you for sure always have a chance to win, unless there's a trophy at stake, of course.
Man, that was almost a spit take. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's going to be tough in the Champions League. Just one match at a time, It'd be nice to get past Arsenal. That's not a gimme, but yeah, one match at a time.
Yeah, so overall thoughts, what would you say, looking back at this Cologne match? Would you say you're happy, sad, kind of indifferent? What do you think momentum looks like going into next week?
I'm between indifferent and happy. If it wasn't for Kingsley Coman's injury, I would be like, yeah, that was fine. We created a lot of chances. Rested Sané, rested Neuer, rested Musiala until he had to come in for Kingsley Coman. Yeah, that match, it kind of tells me a few things. It confirms really that the center backs going forward are, for the Champions League, I guess, are going to be Dyer and De Ligt, just because, Upamecano did not play well and had a mistake. And I don't know, it was nice to get Mazraoui some minutes too, because he has been injured and he might have to play left back against Arsenal because Davies is suspended, and I don't know if Guerrero is going to be fast enough to do that position. So we'll see.
Yeah, that center back position for Bayern seems to be a bit of an issue. Just seems like there's so much kind of frustration, and maybe that's not the right word, but just questions. Seems like you're always debating who should start, who should,
Yep.
Yeah,
so I actually wanted to talk about that a little bit. And that kind of just like leads me into my player ratings too, so I'll kind of quickly talk about that. Just first with goalie, Sven Ulreich, awesome game. I'm giving him a 10 just because I don't really know what he could have done differently. Clean sheet and some nice saves in there. But yeah, now moving on to the center backs. Today it was De Ligt and Dyer. I'm giving them both 7s. I'm also giving Kimmich a 7 at right back, and then Mazraoui a 6 at left back. I think that they all kind of did what they had to do today. Outside of a few slip-ups, Upamecano came in and passed it to Cologne 1v1 essentially with the goalie, and there was a deflection. The first shot from Cologne should have been better, and then Sven had a really nice save on the second one. So yeah, Upamecano, he's getting a 2 for me. And Alphonso Davies also showed up, and I thought did fine. I'm giving him a 5. He wasn't in for that long, but I thought did what he had to do today.
But you giving Davies a 5 is really like an 8 for any other player. So for him, he's got to feel great once he hears that.
Hey, I saw an article that was posted. I think it was maybe Build or something, so that you can't really trust them. But it was something along the lines of people are kind of questioning Davies' appearance on the pitch from the standpoint of like lack of effort, lack of emotion and heart. So I'm not the only one who's thinking that. It was a little bit reaffirming, I guess, to read that article. But yeah, I did want to talk about the center backs for Bayern. So they have 4 center backs essentially who can start. And I wouldn't have said that about Dyer, coming over from Tottenham, not even playing much in the first half of the season. But he's been good for Bayern so far. So Dyer and De Ligt are the two that Tuchel seems to be running with right now, I think De Ligt has been the best this season. He was benched almost the entire first half of the season for some reason. I don't know why. He had a good season last season too. But yeah, because of the center back situation, you had Kim Min-jae and Dayot Upamecano playing most of the matches, also playing international matches. They're both talented, very good players. They kind of got ran into the ground. And then there was some international play at the beginning of this year with Kim for South Korea and Upamecano for France. They both came back to Bayern and both just clearly were a little bit lesser versions of themselves, clearly tired. And then you had Upamecano make two massive mistakes. One mistake was against Lazio to give them the 1-0 victory. They were both late challenges in the box, both red cards, both essentially lost Bayern the game. And Upamecano is kind of prone to those kind of mistakes. Unfortunately, that overshadows his brilliance as a defender sometimes. And so after that, Tuchel finally sat those two, finally put De Ligt and Dyer together. They did well. They kind of have been the go-to center backs. But then, interestingly enough, you kind of have Upamecano, who there's reports who he's not very happy with his playing time, which is, to me, it's understandable that he would get benched. He made some mistakes, and his minutes are going to be reduced. But then on the other hand, you have Kim, who, in my opinion, has played better than Upamecano. And as I've said almost every match, I would love to see him start with De Ligt. But Kim is kind of being a good soldier about it all. He's saying, he's happy with his lesser role. He just wants to, keep working hard and prove himself and all that stuff.
And if I'm not mistaken, South Korea might have a program where you have to be a soldier for at least a year. So it makes sense that he would have that attitude for his team.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was, I guess, kind of my center back rant. And then just the remainder of my player ratings for the match today. The midfield to start off with was actually Pavlovic and Guerrero, which was really interesting. I hardly ever see Guerrero play in the midfield. But dang, did he have a nice goal. He gets an 8 for me today. He really held his ground for most of the match, and he's clearly not like a midfielder. He's usually left back.
So was he mostly playing on that kind of left midfield side? Because I was going to say, I know you're always itching to get him in at left back.
Yep. Yeah, and it's because, he's just been more solid than Davies, lately. Obviously, Davies has things that Guerrero doesn't. Davies is a lot faster. He's a lot better on the counter. Kind of when play breaks down, he's really good at filling those gaps, but Guerrero has just been solid so far, and I would encourage anybody to look at his goal today because it was a nice goal. So he's getting an 8 from me. Pavlovic, glad to see him get some minutes. Hopefully he's healthy and he can put his tonsillitis behind him. Giving him a 7. He kind of did what he had to do today too. I really like him in the midfield because he seems to be the best at linking up the attack with the midfield for Bayern. So I hope that he can play against Arsenal. And then, the attack today was Tell, Muller, and Coman. Tell, I'm giving an 8. He had a lot of chances. Like I said, hit the post on one. It's only a matter of time before he starts burying those again. Muller, I'm giving an 8. He kind of actually had an up and down match, but he did bury the second goal. So, that's what you want him to do. And he's still such an intelligent guy. You always see him out there kind of directing and facilitating and telling, people where to go and what to do. Kingsley Coman, I'm giving a 6. I don't think it was his strongest match, but he did all right. Again, so bummed out to see him go down. That's a big blow for Bayern, especially with Serge Gnabry also injured. And I think Bayern is going to have to make some tough choices in the summer just because Serge and Kingsley, I would like to keep both of them, but they are injured a lot. I think especially Serge, well, and probably Kingsley too, might be asked to take a pay cut, so we'll see. And I'm giving Kane a 7. Kane had quite a few chances again today, but couldn't put any of them away. Um, but yeah, he's doing what he needs to do, and you know, a guy like Harry Kane, those go in a lot of the times, and I'm assuming they'll continue to go in. And then lastly, Limer and Goretzka came in as midfield subs to get some minutes today, giving them both 6s. I thought they were both decent. They kind of did what they had to do, no major mistakes. And now we look ahead to Arsenal.
Yeah, great analysis there. And my brief kind of takeaways after watching a nice 9 to 10 minute video on YouTube of the highlights, I would say I liked what I saw from Kane. He was involved in most of the scoring opportunities from what it seemed like from an assist and scoring standpoint. He had those chances, the one off the post, a nice header that got saved, had a nice assist chance that Kimmich should have buried.
Yep.
Pretty terrible that he didn't. The XG on that had to be at least 0.4 because it's a chance that you have to put it away. So I liked what I saw from him in kind of that role where he's sometimes up, sometimes also a little bit pushed further back, which gives him the chance to get potential assists. I liked what I saw from Tell as well in the highlights. He talked about the one off the post. Looked like he was pretty active for a lot of it.
He's my boy.
And then you just love seeing Muller at the end get that goal. Some of the worst defending you'll see from Köln.
100%.
Still great to see a guy at his age go out there, hustle after the ball, and just bury the opportunity when he gets it. That's one thing about him that I guarantee is he will not ever miss chances like that. He knows how to put them away.
Yeah, I was kind of mentioning that too when we were watching those highlights. Like, as soon as that play kind of broke down and I don't forget who it was, whoever on Cologne didn't see Muller coming from behind, I knew that he was going to bury it. But yeah, great points. I agree with what you said about Kane. He was involved on every end of the pitch today. He was even involved in some nice defense on some corners that I'm remembering, which Cologne scores or has scored. I think it's 53% of their goals this season on corners. It's an insane number. It's like 12 of their 23 goals or something is from corners.
Frankly, that tells you they're a poor team, but
yeah, well, some injuries. I'll gotta give them a little bit
Fair.
of the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, again, Kane was involved, defense, setting up shots, getting shots himself. He was just all over today. And then Tell. I mean, we'll get to it, but he will likely be involved in some way in the Arsenal match. I don't even know if Zane is healthy enough to go 90 minutes right now.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to watch for sure. We'll keep an eye on that in the coming days before that very important Arsenal match. And you talk about involvements. There is one kind of final question I have about the match, and I'm curious about the involvement of Thomas Tuchel on the sidelines. Was he active? Did he look passionate?
Oh, get this. He was suspended for this match. So he was at the stadium. He was at the stadium behind some glass. I don't really actually know how that works. I think he's still able to like radio in the subs, but I don't really know. So yeah, there were some assistant coaches who were really active today, which is kind of funny because lately Tuchel hasn't been super active in the Bundesliga matches. It's just been Champions League that his mind is on.
Was he on too many yellows, or what was the reason for the...
Yeah, he got a yellow last week. I can't remember exactly what he was mad about, but yeah, at Heidenheim he got a yellow, and it was just accumulation.
Yeah, my understanding is that I think you do have some sort of communication, but obviously it's not ideal, and you're not going to be super involved when you're not on the pitch with your players.
Yeah, so... I'm very, very interested to see what Tuchel's game plan is for Arsenal. His options are now more limited because of the injury situation, so we'll see.
Definitely.
Do you want to kind of go and preview Chelsea versus Everton now before I talk about Arsenal a little bit more?
Yeah, so a couple matches this week, during the week. Danny just mentioned both of them. Obviously, the more important one is that Champions League quarterfinal, second leg in Munich. But let's not forget about Chelsea Football Club here. They do have a match Monday afternoon, 2 p.m. Central Time, night game over there in London. It is in London against Everton. As it sits right now, Chelsea are ninth in the table still. Could change tomorrow potentially based on a couple teams. But they're ninth currently. Everton sit in 16th in the table, which is pretty close to relegation, so that'll be interesting to keep an eye out on. I will note Everton has had a couple of point deductions this season, so that's part of the reason that they're so far down. They've had some violations with whether you want to call it FFP, PSR, the profit rules, all that BS stuff that they change every single month, it seems like. But that's kind of the reason they're so far down. They haven't been a great team, but that's kind of where they both stand currently. Everton's form not the greatest. Just had a win against Burnley, nothing special. But other than that, a lot of draws, a lot of losses. Chelsea kind of the opposite, with more wins, but still a lot of draws. Haven't lost in a minute. So both teams, have kind of just had a lot of ups and downs this year. So I think as I'll get into it here, it's looking very interesting for the most part.
Yeah. It looks like you said, Chelsea seems to be in better form than Everton is right now, but I don't think the point differential isn't even that much. I don't think you can really count any games out in the Premier League.
And we've seen that with Chelsea as they drew Sheffield United bottom of the table, drew Burnley second to last in the table. It's just amazing what Chelsea do, and they're probably going to have another crazy game Monday.
Which version of Chelsea are we going to see?
Exactly, and that's the question everybody asks every week, and we'll never know. But what I think is interesting is both teams, you could argue, are a little desperate for wins. Obviously, Everton near that relegation line, they need to put points on the board so that they don't go down to the Championship League. And Chelsea, they're really still trying to get a spot in Europe qualification, whether it's the Europa League or the Europe Conference League, whatever the case may be. It's going to be very interesting, especially now that it looks like England might miss out on an extra Champions League spot.
Yeah, is that going to be Germany and Italy then, right?
That's what it looks like right now. England still, I think, technically might have a better chance than Germany. Depends how you look at it. Chelsea probably will be rooting on Arsenal against Bayern because of it. Also rooting on Liverpool in Europa League. West Ham against Leverkusen, which they don't have much of a chance, but it's kind of a weird thing where you almost have to root for your rivals so that you have a better chance at getting Europe.
That is strange. Leverkusen had those last, 80-plus minute goals a couple days ago, whenever that match was, and Leverkusen also could clinch the Bundesliga title officially. I mean, it's been over for the last couple weeks, but mathematically, if Leverkusen wins tomorrow, they clinch it.
Well, hopefully they're too focused on that, and then maybe West Ham come back next week or whenever that match is.
That's kind of what I was getting at. I was like that. It could be. Leverkusen could be in a really good spot because if they clinch the Bundesliga tomorrow, like going forward for Europe, they can really kind of lock in on that.
Yeah, so that'll be something to keep an eye out on. Like I said, both teams, Chelsea and Everton, going to be desperate for a win. Something to note here for Chelsea, and I've been talking about it all season long, every episode in this pod essentially. The injuries just keep stacking up. It's already been crazy, but it's getting to the point where the fact that there's not an investigation throughout the entire team and every little thing they're doing, every bite of food they eat, every step they take at the training ground, somebody needs to do something, look into something, hire somebody. I don't know what you do, but you got to figure it out.
I saw a post on Instagram about this. Everybody's a Twitter, Instagram, social media doctor, so take this with the biggest possible grain of salt. But it was just a picture of I forget who it was, but it was somebody on Chelsea stretching, and it was somebody being like, I don't know if you saw this, but it was like, oh, this is all wrong. Like your like pelvis should be on the ground for this stretch. You shouldn't be wearing shoes, and they were going through like all this stuff that was wrong with it.
Yeah, so that actually resurfaced this week. That post was originally surfacing around the Chelsea beat probably months ago, but yeah, you never know if that's legit or not. I certainly am not a doctor or a physical therapist to say, or a trainer to say what's good, what's bad. I do know that the fact that people are even questioning stuff like that means that something probably isn't right.
That's kind of what I was getting at. Like, yeah, you don't know if that one specific post has any merit to it or not, but the fact that it's in the zeitgeist, to use a word that I used last week, it means something, I think.
Yeah, who knows? We'll see. What sucks is you're just getting all these injuries that pop up, and as I've said a million times, it's so crazy at this point. So to briefly kind of recap the injury list, all the long terms are still long term and will be out. The Reece Jameses of the world, the Nkunkus of the world, the Lavias, they're all still obviously out. But we're adding more that are going to make it really tough to field a good team. We got Ben Chilwell back in partial training. Does that mean he'll start? Probably not.
Is he sick still, or what's going on with him?
Who knows? They haven't even really said.
Yeah.
We got actually more sickness. We got Robert Sanchez, Raheem Sterling sick now apparently. You got Axel Disasi, who's undergoing some sort of training or evaluation. Then you got Enzo, who's undergoing evaluation. Sounds like he has swelling in his abdomen or something, but it's not a muscle strain. I don't even know how that comes about. Sounds like he probably will be rested so that he's fit for the following FA Cup against Man City. It's crazy. These guys get sick. They're professionals. I'm sorry. I don't know if I was telling you this.
Take some vitamin C.
I watch every other sport under the sun. I never see illnesses like this.
Yeah. Yeah, because you think like, oh, they're traveling a lot, whatever, I get it. But then you're right. It's like that isn't really the case with all these other sports where professional athletes are still traveling all the time.
Right. So from the travel perspective, I get it. Other sports you travel to, maybe it's because you got all these guys that are new and they're all coming together, and maybe it's just new cultures, new atmospheres, so their bodies aren't used to it. So I get that part of it. Although a guy like Sterling has been in England his entire career, so that's an interesting one. I don't know. It's just something they need to figure out. And honestly, I'll go through my lineup prediction and what I want to see here, but I feel like it's going to be tough to field a competitive team at this point.
Yeah, and then, like you said, there's still those FA Cup matches, so how do you rest guys enough where there's not any more injuries? Like, I feel like after a certain point with injuries, and I kind of started to feel this way about Bayern too, it's a slippery slope of you're playing guys who are maybe not quite all the way ready, just to field a good team. And then, yeah, you're playing in the middle of the week, you're playing on the weekend again, and it's like, you got to make some tough decisions as a manager.
That's been the tough part is I think certain guys are probably playing too much. So I think we'll see one or two key guys rested this week, Monday. And here's kind of what I'm thinking at this point is what we'll see. I think you'll see Petrovic in goal, as usual. He's been fine, a little shaky. The defense, the back four, I'd like to see Cucurella at left back. Chilwell, as I mentioned, probably won't start. Then I think you'd want to see Benoit Badiashile at the left back. Silva just hasn't looked like he's spry enough. He's just a little too old. Maybe you bring him in at the end if you got a lead.
Yeah, what is he, 39 or something?
39, and last week had that bad pass. I just think he's prone to too many mistakes. I want to say I just saw he's had the most bad errors that have led to a goal chance, which you don't love to see.
Not at all.
And then I think you'll see probably Chalobah at that right center back position, I hope. I think he's going to show why he's been one of the better Cobham Academy graduates at Chelsea. And then Gusto should be back at right back, which will be huge. He's been absolutely incredible in the absence of Reece James. As I mentioned, Enzo, I think, will be rested, which is fine for me. He's a very important and key player, but give him his rest. He deserves that. So I think you'll see Caicedo and Gallagher kind of in that midfield pivot. Then you'll probably throw, in my opinion, Carney Chukwuemeka in the central attacking midfield spot. He's come off the bench the last few games, has looked phenomenal. I would put him in that spot that Gallagher would usually be in. Then you throw Cole Palmer on the right wing as per usual. Nicholas Jackson up top at the striker spot. I'm looking for him to score a goal this week. And then at that left wing, no Sterling, who's sick. Madueke, you're not going to put there.
Come on. Give it to me.
I'd love to see Mudryk there.
Yeah.
I think going against Everton, you really just want to press the pace. Just hit the gas, and that's what Mudryk will bring you. Everton's got a Ukrainian player, so maybe that'll give him some more motivation.
Whoa, brothers.
I just think it'll be good for him to see more playing time. He needs a confidence boost, and I think maybe he can get you a goal.
I was going to say, there's always that lightning in a bottle aspect with him where it's like sometimes he can be that special figure on the pitch that you need.
And it always seems like when he plays well, everybody else kind of plays well too, and I think that all kind of ties in together. But it also always seems like everybody's so happy when he's doing well, and it just lifts the team up.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The couple of Chelsea matches that I watched, he's got that it factor about him.
And I don't want to spend too much time talking about him because I could forever because I love him so much. But I do think, without getting too much into the weeds on this, I think Chelsea are going to come out strong. I think there's been so much kind of mundane, poor-ish, decent-ish play with these draws to poor teams, that crazy United game. I think they're kind of going to take a breath, rest a couple guys, throw this team together, and come out strong. They play better at night as well, which is key. This is going to be a night game. At home in London, the fans will be ready. I hope. There's a lot of talk about fans not filling the stadium with seats being available. But I think they'll come out strong, and I think they'll win.
Good. Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of this negative fan, especially towards Poch online lately. Toxicity potentially, as we talk about. But do you have a prediction for the match officially, or should we wait for the match preview to drop on Twitter?
Official prediction will come with that match preview, which will drop Monday morning. But I will say, as I already did say, I think Chelsea will get the W here. I think it'll be huge for morale, especially going into that FA Cup next weekend, that semifinal match against Man City. Yeah, I think Chelsea's going to end up looking great here. I really do. I don't know why, but in this moment right now, I kind of all of a sudden got this burst of juice in my veins that I'm really just feeling a victory.
Might be the nice weather.
It probably is.
Yeah, well, I'll give my prediction. Otherwise, I'll forget it. My prediction is Chelsea 2, Everton 1.
We do know that Chelsea never will get a clean sheet the rest of the year because why would you ever want a clean sheet?
Yeah, I have a feeling it might be Chelsea is going to score early, then there'll be a concession, which seems to be par for the course. But I think Chelsea's going to rally together and Mudryk will put through the winning goal.
I would love nothing more than that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I can talk for a couple minutes about Bayern Arsenal if you're good with that.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, so here's our quick preview for the Bayern Arsenal match, which we've talked about a lot. Might be worth checking out our reaction to that one because it's a video episode. It's up on the YouTube channel, Always Bayern Chelsea. And that was the night of the match, so I was still kind of feeling it after that draw in the first leg. But yeah, after the 2-2 draw in London, Bayern plays Arsenal on Wednesday evening, April 17th. I guess evening in Germany. It's at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. The score right now is currently 2-2 in that one, so it's all even. And yeah, the last 5 matches for Bayern, we got 2 wins, 1 draw, 2 losses. The last 5 matches for Arsenal, we got 3 wins, 2 draws, 0 losses. That's including the 2-2 draw at Emirates. But yeah, Arsenal currently has their hands full. I mean, they're, I think right now technically second in the Premier League because they got another match still. But if Arsenal continues to just win out in the Premier League, they'll win that. So they have a lot to think about.
As I mentioned multiple times, I think it's going to be a very interesting balance and something that great teams have dealt with year after year, kind of balancing whether you want to do well in Europe, the league. You obviously want to do well in both. It's just a matter of finding that right balance, right lineups, good mix of players to play in both. Arsenal's dealing with that right now. They have to go to Germany, tough environment, while it's 2-2 right now, and somehow find a way, scratch a way to get a victory, while also thinking about the fact that they can't drop games in the Premier League because you got Man City and Liverpool right on their tail. So it's going to be very tough.
Yeah, and I have to hope that plays a part in this Champions League match because Bayern's going to need everything going right for them that they can get. This Arsenal team is good. But yeah, they're playing, Aston Villa tomorrow, I think, and they're not a team that's going to roll over and die, so Arsenal has a lot to deal with, and like we kind of mentioned before, Bayern wants to win in the Bundesliga. It'd be a real shame if they slipped to third place, but they're not necessarily in a contested title race right now.
Definitely a lot of pressure on both teams here. We just mentioned what Arsenal's dealing with. Bayern, because they're now more focused on the Champions League, does that put a little more pressure on them to get a victory at home? It might.
I think it does. I think it does. And I think that, too, for example, last week, there's just tons of pressure on Tuchel. Even though he's out after this season, and I guess his reputation won't take that big of a hit no matter what happens. He'll be able to find a job if he wants to, which I'm sure he will. But there was talk, it's all these matches now for him. It's like if he has an extremely poor showing, he could just be fired right after the match. I don't know how much that's actually weighing on his mind. I do know that he's just seems to care about these Champions League matches a lot. Like he clearly has a bug about just taking down these England teams.
He's a big game manager. I don't think there's any doubt about that. He knows how to find a way to win, which I really respect him for. It's tough that he's not going to stick around at Bayern, and I get it, but the fact that he's stuck around just for the rest of this season, I think you have to respect him for.
Yeah, and we'll see. I really wonder what the game plan for both teams is going to be because you kind of saw Arteta made those subs a little bit after half. I want to say it was like the 50th minute of the first leg, and that totally changed the match around. I wonder if he's going to kind of stick with those guys or what his strategy is going to be. And then Tuchel, I'm sure, will, come out with sort of a similar strategy with, I guess, the absence of Gnabry, which really sucks. But I have a feeling he's going to try to kind of score off those counters again. And then after that, just try to, hold on. Say Bayern jumps out with the lead. I think he's going to just completely switch to passive, hold on to the lead football.
I think both managers are going to come out passive and defensive, which I personally think is a mistake for both.
I agree, but I agree that I think that's what they're both going to do, and I think that's a mistake, especially for Bayern.
Yeah, so what I would actually do, because I know both teams can be prone to mistakes, and they both showed that in the first leg. So I would come out aggressive. Try to be the one to land that first punch. And if you do, I think the other side will be prone to make a mistake. Whether it's, you try something really aggressive, maybe it doesn't work, but hey, then the next time down, maybe an Upamecano or a Saliba, some center back, makes a error with a bad pass. Kane puts one away. Saka puts one away. I think that's what's going to happen. I think it's going to change the match right at the beginning. And then from there, you'll see it play out, and they'll try to make tactical changes. But I think whoever lands that first punch will be really important to the rest of the match.
Totally agree. I think that's a really good point and a really good breakdown. I think that if Bayern lands that first goal, that's going to be huge for them. I think that the crowd is going to do a lot to carry them through if that happens, and I think that it might end up just the momentum, even from the first match, hopefully some of that carries over, because I think the momentum is with Bayern right now. And I think with that and then the combination of the crowd and just, experience and being amped up and like this is all that they're playing for right now, I think that could go a long way.
Momentum will definitely be huge. I think here's maybe an interesting prediction, but something tells me that Arsenal's going to make some crazy mistake that will cost them. And honestly, I think it might be a missed pen. I could see them getting a penalty. Maybe Dyer slides a little late or something. I think somebody's missing a pen. Maybe Neuer saves it. Maybe it's just a complete miss. I just see something crazy like that happening. It's a second leg of a quarterfinal in the Champions League. Everybody's going to be feeling that pressure and tension, and someone's going to make a mistake.
I don't necessarily disagree with that. That actually kind of lends itself nicely to my match prediction, but let's end with that, and then quickly first I'll just jump into a lineup what I think is going to happen from the standpoint of Bayern, which we'll post on Twitter as well, of course, at always Bayche, always Bayern Chelsea. I think Neuer's going to be healthy. I think he's going to be in between the sticks. I think that him resting today versus Cologne was a good idea. But I think it was one of the Bayern bosses said that he's hopefully going to be fine. I think we're going to see Mazraoui at left back, actually. Like I mentioned, I wouldn't mind to see Guerrero there just because he's been playing nicely. But I also understand that you need a little bit more of that speed against Arsenal. As a reminder, Davies is out with yellow cards. And I think De Ligt and Dyer will remain as the center backs. You just got to roll with that at this point, as much as I like Kim. And then I think Kimmich will be right back. I think that Pavlovic and Goretzka will start as the midfielders, although I wouldn't be surprised to see Konrad Laimer again since he held his own against Arsenal. I think you have some options there now with Pavlovic back at least. And then on the attack, I think that we're going to see Musiala, Muller, and Sané, although I wouldn't be completely shocked if you had Musiala in that kind of center position and then Tell and Sané on the wings. I think that Sané is going to be healthy. That's the reports. But again, the man's been banged up for a while, and Tuchel's been just running him into the ground. So hopefully he can play 90 minutes. There was a report that he still had some pain after the Arsenal match, but it was a little bit better than it had been, like against Heidenheim and weeks prior. I think he played against Dortmund. I can't remember, but he was playing through apparently intense pain. And then, I think Kane will be at the striker position.
That sounds like a great lineup preview. I'm very excited to see this match. Haven't decided if I'm going to try to work from home to catch it all in full. To be determined, but either way, I'm very excited to listen or catch as much as I can. I think it's going to be really great. I think you could potentially go beyond the normal 90 just with how close these teams have been playing thus far, which would be really great.
Yeah, I agree. Do you want to give a sort of prediction, or do you want to wait? Because I have a prediction.
The more I've thought about it these last few minutes, I realized that the possibility of going past that 90 could occur, and I'm leaning toward that. And that's all I'll say for now because I haven't decided who I really think will win. But I think that's the prediction I'll make today, is that it will go beyond that normal 90. I don't know for sure the rules of quarterfinals in the Champions League. I'm assuming they'd have the extra 30 and then pens. Maybe it just goes to pens. I'll have to look to be sure, but
Yeah, I think it's the extra 30, but I'm also not 100% sure. That is also my prediction. I think it's going to be 2-2 after 90. I think that Kane's
meaning 4-4.
Yeah, meaning 4-4 aggregate. I think that Kane's going to get another goal, and I think Musiala is going to get another goal. I shouldn't say another goal because he didn't score against Arsenal, but I think those two are going to score. Saka will probably score, and I don't know, someone, maybe a midfielder will score or something. But yeah, I think I can't predict against Bayern. I'm gonna say it's gonna be 3-2. Maybe it'll go to pens. I don't really know, but maybe your prediction of that mistake will come true.
I would say this. I do think Kane's getting a goal. Could be another pen in that first 90. I think if it goes to pens, I would take Bayern playing at home. I really like Neuer. I think he's a rock.
Neuer's the GOAT.
Raya, to me, doesn't do it in goal for Arsenal, so I really would have no desire to kind of bet on him. I think pens would be super interesting. I'd rather see somebody win in that extra 30 minutes if that's what they do.
Me too.
But we'll see. It's just going to be such an interesting week because you also got that other second leg of Real Madrid and Man City. I don't know what I'm going to do because I feel like I need to watch both.
Yeah, the more we talk about it, the more just like nervous and tense I'm getting about it all because, man, I mean, this is the exciting part about soccer. This is what you sign up for. This is the business end of the season. But man, if Bayern could get through to the semifinals and just extend my hope for a few more weeks, things would be kind of nice.
Yeah, I must have gotten that sign-up slip lost in my backpack because I didn't see a sign-up for Chelsea in Champions League.
Yeah, your parents didn't sign the permission slip.
Damn.
Yeah, it takes time. You gotta. I'm not gonna say trust the process, of course, because that would just be horrible to say live, not live, but on mic, recorded. But yeah, we're pulling for Chelsea too. This isn't always Bayern. This is always Bayern Chelsea.
That it is.
Okay, well, I'm good to wrap this up now. I enjoyed that conversation quite a bit.
Yeah, really looking forward to both these matches. Hopefully Chelsea can get it done with a nice, easy victory on Monday. Hopefully Arsenal gets it done. Did I say Arsenal?
Oh, my God.
I meant to say Bayern, actually. That was a true slip-up.
The Freudian slip for the ages.
That's actually crazy because I would never say that. London is blue.
Thank God.
I am so sorry for that one. Go Bayern.
Yeah, go Bayern, baby. Yeah, check us out, I guess, on the Twitter because we'll have lots of posts coming for the matches, and then we'll also put out a Bayern Arsenal reaction and a Chelsea Everton reaction, potentially a Chelsea preview for the weekend, Bayern preview for the weekend. There's tons of stuff happening this week, but expect more from us later this week.
I did want to add one more thing. I know we've kind of ran on here, but I meant to add this toward the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to talk more about this in the off season, in the summer months, but just looking ahead here and wanted to add this in. Today, Wrexham clinched promotion up to League One. That is now back-to-back promotion seasons for the club in Wales. That's a team that was bought by Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney.
Yeah.
Awesome to see. Really recommend watching Welcome to Wrexham. For those who haven't, it's a phenomenal show. Season 3 is coming out in May, so I had to throw that in there. Really great to see and great for the sport of football.
Awesome. Yeah, we can talk more about that on the summer. What the hell am I saying? In the summer, maybe give them a full episode.
For sure.
All right. Well, until next time, as always, go Bayern.
Up the Chelsea.